Well, Kane, I don't think I'm alone. I think everyone's pretty stunned with that innings. But how did you go about constructing that chase? What targets did you set along the way? Because it was looking quite tricky there, I think, at 4 for 80.
Yeah, it was just trying to build some sort of partnership to get the game into a death phase, I suppose, in terms of being able to play with a bit more freedom and try and get a bit of momentum. And we were able to do that in small bits, but obviously the partnership and the knock from Colin was outstanding in terms of swinging that momentum, and he hit the ball beautifully. Perhaps coming in fresh rather than trying to negotiate the surface prior might have been a positive thing, but it was certainly enjoyable batting with him, and a great game of cricket on a surface that was tough for both sides, and it required both teams to adapt, but often those sorts of surfaces create those sorts of games, so it was a great game to be a part of, but obviously nice to come out on top.
Kane, there was a period, like say from overs 25 to 30, when you were hitting the fielders quite often. Technically, could you explain to us how a surface like this leads to that happening, and how was coming out of it like?
Yeah, those ones were coming out of the middle too, which was semi-enjoyable, but couldn't get any runs for it. But on those sorts of wickets, I think both sides were just trying to bowl as straight as they could, almost test match areas where you're trying to hit the top of off even a fraction shorter and try and create that squeeze mentality. And both teams did do that very well, and both sides were under pressure in a number of occasions. And if you can, I suppose, if you can try and build a partnership and then look to then change the momentum of the game because you've got some sort of platform, then that gives you the opportunity to perhaps try and get a few more runs. But as it sort of turned out, often when we tried to do that, and same with the South African side, it was very difficult. So a bit of a scrappy game, but also, like I say, a great game to be a part of and a very close one.
So you saying like you were timing them really well.
Not a lot of them, don't get me wrong, but the ones I hit to the fielder, it was...
Technically, how does the pitch lead to that?
Yeah, so obviously if you're bowling with those straight lines, it's difficult to hit across the ball when it is standing up in the wicket. So you're trying to play straight, hoping that perhaps you pierce a few gaps, but at the same time, you're just trying to take the game to a stage, so not let it bother you, despite the fact that you always want a few more. That never changes, but on those sorts of surfaces, when you're trying to weigh up the chase, it wasn't all that important that you weren't getting sort of runs for them.
Okay, given the pressure throughout the innings and the crunch situation in the end, and the World Cup stage, would you rate this as perhaps your best ODI knock?
Yeah, I haven't sort of thought much about that just yet. Obviously, just been batting for a while, and it's just really nice to build those sorts of partnerships with that middle lower order that were so important, and having that experience in those sorts of situations as a collective is a really beneficial thing. Don't really rank innings, but each time you can try and go out and contribute to a winning performance is something that you're always wanting to do, and it was nice I was able to achieve that today.
Kane, amid all the blazing hitting and sixes elsewhere in this tournament, is it satisfying to play such a thoroughbred innings as that? Almost old school, dare I suggest?
It just sort of was what it was, I guess. You're just trying to do the job as best as you can, and commit to the team plan rather than perhaps your own, and not get caught up in what it looks like, and just, like I say, just trying to build those sorts of partnerships, because naturally when you're chasing, there's a total there that sort of dictates your play. And like you mentioned, there's been a number of varying scores throughout this competition, and I suppose weather has had a little bit to do with that, but we've been on a variety of services, and it's been nice that guys have adapted well, and we know that coming into the back end of the tournament, there'll be some extremely tough games on different wickets again, and we'll have to wait and see what they hold for us.
Kane, obviously the game wasn't, in the context of the tournament, wasn't as important to you as it was for South Africa, but Faf came out and said it felt like Auckland 4 years ago. Did you feel that same?
I watched most of that game, so it felt a little bit different for me. I was on the sidelines, but it was another really tight game. We've had a number of great games against South Africa. They're a fantastic side, and obviously a very difficult side to beat. And then you you get on a sort of a surface where it sort of dictates how deep the game goes, because it can be hard to blast teams out, but then it can be very difficult to score. So you're sort of playing sort of a slow, I guess, death by paper cuts in terms of a bowling outfit, and that's what we were looking to try and achieve as well. And once again, another great game, another close one, but I think every game's important, and naturally important for them, but very important for us. We're wanting to keep improving throughout this competition, and I think for us that looks like playing smart cricket and adapting, because the surfaces have varied a lot, and we need to keep trying to look to do that and be better at that.
Hi, Kane. Just talk us through that last ball of the penultimate over. There's a short third man that you've kind of found quite a bit, and then so you decide to open the face of the bat and kind of get it past him. So was that almost, in a sense, premeditated to kind of hit that gap if it came that way, just knowing how tough it was to, as you said, to play those straight lines?
Yeah, I was just looking for a single, to be honest. And then at the last minute, I didn't. I was just looking for a single, and then to try and get down the other end, obviously the shorter side, and South Africa were having to bowl their fifth bowler, so it was nice that rolled away for four, definitely.
Hi, Kane. In the end, it got a little close. I mean, how did you keep yourself cool? Because you're the by then you're already right there. So how do you keep yourself cool on that thing?
I suppose it's just trying to focus on the task and what we need to try and achieve, and throw a number of different things into that equation, and try and make the best decision you can. And it doesn't always come off, but it was nice that we were able to take the game to a stage where we then get across the line today, which was, like I mentioned, a really good experience for us as a team in this tournament. But yeah, it certainly doesn't always happen like that, but it was just important for us today to take the game to a stage, and we were sort of keeping track of the overs and who was bowling what, and trying to assess some of perhaps the bigger threats on that surface, and the long side, the short side. And then it was nice that it was able to go in our favour today.
Kane, your first three wins was quite comfortable. Would you say this type of victory will help your side go deeper into the tournament later on?
Yeah, I mean, there's a huge amount to learn from this performance, and I think I mentioned a couple of times the experiences that you have by being put under pressure on a number of different occasions, whether it's with the bat or the ball, and having close games and tournaments like the World Cup are great to be a part of, especially when you come out on the right side of things. So we also know that we've got a number of games left, and on different surfaces. We'll be back here again at some point. We won't know the difference that will hold for us, but we also have Manchester where we go next. And once again, I know that it's been playing well, and we'll just have to adapt and keep playing this sort of cricket that gives us the best opportunity to win cricket games. But day in, day out, that can vary a lot depending on opposition and surfaces, etc.
Kane, there were long periods where you just, hitting ones here, dink the ball around. But then there are also very brief periods where you'd miss one, or you'd under-edge one, or hit one back to the bowler, and then you kept getting
in the arm 3 times as well.
Yeah, so
there's all different things going on.
That's what I'm saying. So how do you? Is there something you do especially to get yourself back in the moment? But clearly you were frustrated. You swung the bat a couple times. Just personally, what do you do?
Yeah, once it slipped and it looked like but it wasn't quite. It didn't have the anger behind it, but it did fall out. Yeah, I guess it's just trying to focus on the team situation, and look, it hit a few fielders. Sometimes you knew that you were going to have tough periods out there, so going into the innings, it was important that you tried to give yourself a little bit of a break, because no one played the free-flowing innings except for perhaps de Grandhomme, which was obviously very nice to watch. But if you're having to try and start an innings where the quality of the South African attack was going to bowl straight and hit an area for a long period of time, ones were quite tricky, but it sort of doesn't really matter as long as the team is moving forward. And if a guy at the other end hits a boundary and you're looking at sort of 4.5 and over, then a large part of that over is achieved. And and then in the back of your mind you're just weighing up where you want to be a little bit later on. So taking the focus away from yourself and much more around the situation where we want to be as a team is the focus.
4 teams seem to be breaking away from the pack. I mean, obviously it's good if you're one of the 4, but are you surprised that's happening so early in the group phases? And could it actually be not great for the tournament as a whole?
I don't know, really. I mean, there's still a number of games left that, and as we know in these sorts of tournaments, things can go in a number of different ways, and you always see, I guess, sides that are ranked lower beat sides that are ranked higher, and all these different sorts of things. But and I think we will find, playing on a number of similar surfaces where wickets age, that there's another varying factor. But it's very hard to judge with only sort of half the games gone in the tournament in terms of what it looks like at that end point. But for us, we're focusing on the cricket that we want to play and trying to improve day in, day out.
You talked about that you focus on match situation to calm yourself down. But are there moments when you really feel the tension there? And is there a routine that you do to somehow stub it out? Or you don't even feel the nerves?
You always feel, some days it's free-flowing and you don't have to perhaps negotiate as much as other days. And I guess you're trying to be aware of it as much as you can. And then, like I mentioned, a little bit different if you're chasing a higher score, perhaps on a better surface, and you are required to perhaps push it at different stages. But with the total that we were chasing, albeit on a tough surface, it meant that if you were going to face dot balls, but if you're able to apply pressure at certain stages, it doesn't have to be right here, right now, which I guess is sometimes the thing that can cloud you. It can be in a few overs' time, and if you're able to communicate with your partner, hopefully that can help with decision making. And at the end of the day, you're just wanting to make the best decisions you can, despite at times struggling through different periods of an innings. And that's the nature of the sport, that you come out against different opposition. Obviously in a tournament like this, you're playing the best, and you're playing on a number of different surfaces, so many different things to perhaps take into account and try and weather as a player and as a team.
Kane, did you feel 240 was about a sort of par score, and how happy were you with the bowling of Colin and Mitchell in the middle overs?
Yeah, they were brilliant. We sort of knew that throughout the middle overs scoring could be quite tough, but at the same time you had to execute your skills well, and there was a short side to the ground, which meant that there was always perhaps a boundary option. But they were brilliant for us, and in terms of a par score, it is always quite hard to tell. If you're able to take early wickets, then perhaps it was a par score, but at the same time, you always want a few more, don't you? And it's sort of impossible to reflect and give a sort of a definite answer. But it was one of those wickets that if you were able to squeeze and apply pressure, which they did, and they certainly weren't far away from perhaps getting across the line themselves. But it was nice once again to be able to take the game to a stage where we gave ourselves a chance to win it, which we were able to do.
Thanks very much, guys.